No, say it ain't so. David Benavidez's own promoter says they offered Canelo more money than the Charlo fight, and it still looks like Canelo didn't choose that. Stay tuned to this video. I'm going to break down everything for you. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you guys come in and smash the like button. Now, David Benavidez, his own promoter, Samson Lukowitz, he did an interview with the Boxing Voice, TBV. The link will be in the description so you can give them the view and also check out the content in its full form, uncut. All right, but I want to play a snippet. Without further ado, roll the clip.
Why wasn't an offer made to Canelo to fight Benavidez next instead of Charlo?
Or both. Why not offer them both fights?
You want to know them.
So the question, the co-host said, why wasn't there an offer for Canelo to fight David Benavidez on the PBC side, not just Charlo?
Why wasn't an offer made to Canelo to fight Benavidez next instead of Charlo?
Or both. Why not offer them both fights?
Listen to what he says.
You want to know the money you're talking about?
No. ¿Por qué no le hicieron una oferta a Canelo para la pelea con David?
You got the offer for much more than $45 million.
Oh, okay. So we're misunderstanding. So you're saying that Canelo did receive an offer for Benavidez for more than $45 million, but it's just not being reported?
That is correct. You have the
breaking news.
Breaking news.
So how many more millions did they offer Canelo? Was because Charlo's 45, was David a $50 million offer of his 48? What?
Much more. A lot more.
More than 50 million.
He said much more, y'all.
Was David a $50 million offer of his 48? What?
Much more. A lot more.
More than 50 million.
Much more than that.
And he said, and you're saying that, has he officially said no? Is that why David hasn't had a fight announced? Are you still waiting to see, do they say yes?
Wow. So the reports came out that Charlo, there was an offer made for Charlo to fight against Canelo Alvarez, and that reported offer, the flat guaranteed rate was $45 million. The guy in the middle is David Benavidez's own trainer, or excuse me, his promoter, Samson, as I mentioned earlier, right? And he says, guess what? We offered him much more to fight David Benavidez. Wow. Wow. Now, speaking of David Benavidez, Stephen Espinoza of Showtime previously did interviews, and this was before the Caleb Plant fight, before the outcome was rendered. And he stated that they are interested and really want to do more business with Canelo and make David Benavidez or Charlo. It says Canelo Alvarez is interested in fighting Jermall Charlo or David Benavidez next and could make return pretty quickly. Very interesting things. Espinoza told ES News, for my money, the two most interesting fights for Canelo next are Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez, or David Benavidez and Jermall Charlo. We've certainly mentioned these. Look, I told you, I do the research so you don't have to. You must subscribe to my channel. So if you like boxing, this is your one-stop shop. Stephen Espinoza of Showtime, who's in charge of the Showtime boxing programming, says we've certainly mentioned those fights, Charlo and Benavidez, to Team Canelo, and there's interest. We've seen this year that Canelo has stayed busy. I would expect that he rolls into his next fight pretty quickly. So this was statements made well before this current interview where this is coming out. So basically, Samson Lukowitz, his statements are being corroborated by a past interview with Steven Espinoza, who says, we definitely mentioned those fights to Canelo Alvarez because they clearly would want Canelo back on their network in big fights. I mean, it's a business. So Steven Espinoza already said that, and it's up to Canelo to see what he decides. Now, the problem for Canelo is this. We know how Canelo likes to operate. Canelo fought a ton of fighters from Turkey, guys from England, European fighters, Eastern European fighters, etc., or Caucasian fighters recently. And it looks like he wants to hone in and continue fighting certain styles rather than other styles. We all know that guys like Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez, they have nasty offenses and, you know, completely different style. Like where even if Canelo wins, you know, there's still like, okay, Canelo will be the favorite versus probably any of those guys. However, the trouble lies if he fights them. This is not a faded Kovalev off of a quick turnaround after he's knocked out by Andre Ward, after he got knocked out by Leader Alvarez, and also after he nearly got knocked out by Anthony Yard and was on a quick turnaround. David Benavidez, nobody has silenced him. Nobody has put David Benavidez in his place. David Benavidez, I'm not saying he has no flaws because, you know, he's not that big on defense. However, his offense and his mindset is definitely championship material, and it's nasty. So just like Steven Espinoza was saying in that past interview, these are the best fights, or some of the best fights, for Canelo Alvarez, because at the end of the day, they're different stylistic matchups, both Charlo and David Benavidez, as opposed to Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant. You could really, like, if you were to categorize boxers, you would put Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders in one category, and then you would put Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez in another. More of a pure boxer style, slick style, but not as much with the punching power. And then guys who have a real menacing punch and a mean streak, and that would be David Benavidez and Charlo and Beterbiev. These are all three guys that Canelo has veered away from. Like, he could have fought any of these guys at any point. You know, Canelo fans continue to be okay with anything that Canelo suggests. Like, a person can come out of the woodwork and Canelo could say, I'm fighting a Power Ranger, and there'll be a Nello Man fan who will be like, oh, that's a great fight. Oh, Tommy, he was the Green and White Ranger. And you're like, what? You know what I mean? So this is very compelling information coming from David Benavidez, because one, Showtime already told you they were interested in it, right? David Benavidez, he already told you he was interested. In fact, after he fought late replacement Kyrone Davis, because his original opponent, Jose Uzcategui, failed a test because he wasn't confident in his ability to beat David Benavidez fair and square, and he was pulled and entered late replacement Kyrone Davis, right? Post-fight, after David Benavidez got yet another knockout, David Benavidez told you he wants to fight the man you see on the screen. Payday, you want payday? I know that. Canelo Alvarez, right? So Samson Lukowitz, he just did the interview, again, link in the description. So all of a sudden, if the fight doesn't manifest, then that's, you know what the culprit is. In fact, Eddie Reynoso tried his best to downgrade and berate David Benavidez, saying, who has he beat? He hasn't beat any champions of note and all that. But why did you fight? See, and this is what happens with the Canelo Man fans, and they always look foolish in the end, because why did Canelo fight Amir Khan? He wasn't a champion at 155 catchweight. Why did Canelo fight a guy like Avni Yildirim or Rocky Fielding? These weren't like stand-up champions. And it's funny when a black fighter like Gervonta Davis has a secondary belt, right? Old media makes a big, huge deal about it. and say, oh, Tank's not a real champion. But Canelo's first foray at 168, his first fight was Rocky Fielding, who had a secondary belt, and everybody praised Canelo for it. So the walls are closing in for Canelo Alvarez. It'll be interesting. Now, I do feel like the David Benavidez fight, that's the go-to fight to make, because the Charlo fight is a very nice fight, and I would prefer that as opposed to like Triple G, Trilogy, or something like that I really don't want to see. But the reason why I like the Benavidez fight even more is because David Benavidez is currently a 168 pounder and Charlo isn't. So Charlo is not established at 168. He's a 160 pound middleweight champion. So nonetheless, he still has a name, and that is what it is. But Floyd Mayweather also said that Canelo is ducking Benavidez. Roll the clip.
I look up and down, but it is what it is. I mean, if it was up to me, like we keep on saying, we want to see Benavidez. Canelo, a hell of a fighter, but my personal opinion, he's ducking Benavidez. You know, that's just my personal opinion, and I'm allowed to speak my mind. That's just what it is. He's going up to Cruz, and I'm not knocking.
So basically, Floyd said he was ducking because nobody wants to see other fights like Mock Book Air and all this other stuff that Canelo tried to finagle. So I'll let Canelo make his decision. Hopefully he hurries up and decides who he's going to fight. I doubt it's David Benavidez, but this is shocking news that David Benavidez' own promoter is on record now saying that he was offered more than $50 million to fight Canelo. And, you know, if Canelo turns down that money to fight Bivol on DAZN on the app or Triple G, then that shows you what type of challenges he's really looking for, because Benavidez is a crazy style, Charlo's still a crazy style, and they're just overall bigger fights. So what would usher you in and push you towards fighting on DAZN with that? Because realistically, all these numbers are tenfold on PBC just based on the fact that they have a pay-per-view infrastructure with Showtime and whatnot, and he'll get a percentage of the pay-per-view buy rate, and those will be the biggest fights that he can make probably throughout boxing at this current juncture. So you'll make even more money. So if you want Canelo to get paid and you're a real fan of boxing, these are the fights you should be pushing for: Benavidez or Charlo. Drop your thoughts in the comment section, and I'm out. The future is now. The Hibernation 5s by Kenichi Bear. Hybrid gaming and lifestyle headphones. Out of the box, you can connect to any console or PC. Bluetooth ready with a low latency USB adapter, color RGB, and extreme bass mode. The Hibernation 5s adjust to you. Whether you need a gaming, travel, gym, or lifestyle headphones, the Hibernations got you covered. The new Hibernation 5s, link in the description. Customize the way you hear the world. Welcome to the nation. Are you tired of your YouTube videos not getting any views? Well, consider TubeBuddy. I've used TubeBuddy for years to scale up my YouTube channel. Now we're sitting over 200,000 subscribers. TubeBuddy is a browser extension that offers a ton of built-in productivity and time-saving services to take your channel to the next level. Use my link in the description to get started with TubeBuddy and level up your channel faster.